Hello and welcome to Beyond the Broom Cupboard, an entertaining look at the serious business of children's television. Welcome to this, the second episode of the podcast. Now, if I was to ask you what a creature that is half vegetable, half fish sounds like, or how to communicate your protectiveness for your child using just the word bah, you might struggle. My guest for this episode wouldn't hesitate. Kate Harbour is an extremely experienced and versatile voice actor. She's Wendy from Bob the Builder, Pilchard the Cat, Timmy's mum from Shaun the Sheep, among many, many other amazing characters. I really wanted to speak to Kate when I started this podcast, as she's been involved in some of my family's favourite programmes and films. I started by asking how she began doing voice acting work.
Well, it was for Stuff Your Face Telly, and I say that because I had great lunch, SFTV, and they were doing a thing called Letterbox. And I just literally went for the audition, having previously just made a tape of me reading all sorts of different characters, and then I got an agent, and it all sort of spun off from there. But this audition was for one particular character, and then they just said, actually, we've got this other one. Could you try that? What could you do for that? So it was Donna the Dragon and Sandy the Sock and all that sort of stuff. So I had a whole, garage. I've never said that before. Of characters in my head, and sort of brought them to the fore, and thankfully started getting the work. Because I could do more than just the one. Of course, that's handy for the budget. So that's where I started, and that was I think I was in the West End at the time. I can't exactly remember. I started tearing tickets at the Palladium, and then went to do the audition for the Oliver and got that, and then ended up doing lots of musical theatre. But I started off as a dancer. Actually, I trained as a dancer, and I actually think that's partly why I have a facility to or that was my way in, as it were, to create these characters, because they came from a physical place for me. They were characters that I could sort of embody. All you got to do is look at the Muppets and realise that they are a physical presence. And so I was trying to adopt a physical presence of these characters because they just spoke to me. You can't fail to, get excited about them. And the way that they held themselves and just their physical presence, I suppose. So, being a dancer and expressing yourself, I suppose, physically, and telling a story physically, the leap wasn't too great for me. And I guess I just was making impressions all the time, from early doors.
What kind of things did you watch when you were younger? What children's programmes? Obviously, you mentioned the Muppets, and I've seen a photo of your voiceover booth you've got at home, and you've got several Muppets in there.
I have.
was that a big factor? What other things do you remember from your childhood you used to love?
Oh, God. So I was born in 1971. So I had lots of fantastic programmes and things. There was Bagpuss, of course. And I think they had Charlie Mouse in that. Really high-pitched sort of thing. And Rainbow. I remember that. And I remember once I had this sounds very odd, but I had a nightmare when I was about 4. And the rainbow heads were in the skirting board, and they were looking at me and talking to me. And I found them really compelling and scary as hell, but I loved it. And my brain had obviously manifested these heads coming out of the skirting board talking to me, zipping around, and it was all that, and all weird, just weird. So that was my memory of Rainbow. So I suppose when you have that kind of morbid fascination, you want to go back for more, don't you? So I was listening a lot, and I guess my dad was an actor, so I was surrounded by music, because he played the guitar as well. In fact, he was nearly signed to Decca Records, but he said, I'd rather be an actor. It was good. It was probably the best call. But Surrounded by that. So obviously doing impressions and sort of making people laugh, I guess, was probably quite a good way of getting attention. Maybe. I don't know. So, yeah, sorry, I've lost my thread now. Where was I?
No worries.
Children's programmes, yeah.
Yes. Did your dad? I think I've seen that he did do a bit of children's TV. Did he in his time?
Yes, he did. He started out doing this thing called Finding Out.
Right. What was Finding Out? I've not really come across that before.
It was like a children's teaching programme where he would sing his own songs to the children, teaching them about things like Big Ben and the Tower of London and a kind of landmarks, really, of London at the time. And I've still got his sheet music. Actually, he wrote loads of wonderful music for it. He was just a very good teacher, actually. Funnily enough, I've just received some V8 tapes. Is that what they called them? Those reel-to-reels. And my friend, my wonderful friend Keith Wickham, very kindly digitised them for me. And on there is my dad teaching Alan Rickman.
Oh wow!
Mic technique. Because he told me that's what he'd done, and I've just found these recordings. It was quite exciting, really. To hear Alan Rickman and then to hear my dad in the background saying, thank you so much. Would you care to read the next piece in your own time? And then he comes in, he says, the next piece I'm going to read is, it's absolutely incredible voice. But anyway, I digress.
And did he have the famous voice does he still, even in those days, did he have the famous voice?
Even then, yes, absolutely. He didn't change at all, really. He just had such an incredible presence right from the off, I reckon. And you could just hear, I could hear it in my dad's voice going, right, I don't need to do anything here.
Yeah.
He's got it all going on.
Pretty sorted in terms of like classic voices, really. You don't need to do
Yeah, exactly. When you've got a presence like that, it's that's something that I think is really valuable to listen in on and learn. There's people who just have this otherness about them, and you can almost hear their cogs whirring. They're thinking the thoughts before they're saying it.
Yeah.
But they're also riffing off it and actually really being it and enjoying it. And I think that's sometimes we get a little bit too in our heads, don't we?
Yeah.
And so I think that's partly what I'm also teaching at the moment. Teaching acting for animation. Actually, I thought I might as well offer up some suggestions and some ideas of what I've found useful and helpful. And it really is just getting out of your head and actually immersing yourself in the character. Lots of people find it. There are lots of different ways of doing that, of course, because we all process things differently, don't we? Mm. So my way might not work for some people, or it could absolutely resonate with others. But I'm just literally offering it up and seeing what happens. People do enjoy it, I must say. But and I'm enjoying it. So that's more of that this year, I think.
Well, I think I'm glad you're sharing your skills, because you have had a pretty amazing career, and like we said earlier, it's really focused on animation and voices. So probably one of your first really big things was probably Bob the Builder, and that's obviously you've still got Bob the Builder figures in your voiceover booth, and that, looking on IMDb, you've done Bob the Builder and a million variations of it through the years. How did that come about, and what was the process of like working on Bob the Builder?
Well, what an absolute dream job. I had been working with this wonderful lady called Jackie Cockle. It was called Okie Doke, and that involved lots and lots of different animals in this environment, and so I was doing a lot of voices for her. And there came a time when she was obviously doing this new project, and she got me in because Emma Chambers, who was in Notting Hill, the late Emma Chambers, rest in peace, she got Notting Hill, so she wasn't able to continue in the character Wendy for Bob the Builder. So Jackie got me in to do a test. And I'd worked with Jackie, so I felt, relaxed, and I was able to come up with some ideas, and they liked what I did, and I got the part, and it was just my dream job. All the different series, and then the live stage shows, and also the most extraordinary thing, recording at Abbey Road, the album. For goodness sake, Abbey Road. Wow. It was amazing. It really was a fantastic privilege to do that. And we had such a laugh. But the weird thing was I didn't have a voice that morning. I'd lost my voice. And somebody said, what you need to do is drink lots of fresh pineapple juice. So I had someone go out and get me loads of pineapple juice. And they did. And cider vinegar as well. But mainly the pineapple juice. And eventually, after about an hour, my voice came back. Something to do with an enzyme, I don't know, bromelain or something. I don't know. So I had my voice back, and I was just so happy that I could actually sing. It was most bizarre.
You've recorded all the Bob the Builder songs at Abbey Road, because my son was very, very into Bob the Builder about the time of lockdown. So our lockdown home discos. Some of the Bob the Builder songs were on heavy rotation then, but I had no ideas that those shared a DNA with the Beatles. Really, quite different. But it's Bob the Builder had a great cast in it. Obviously, Neil Morrissey as Bob, and loads of other great voice actors. Did you get to work with him in the studio together? Was it done very separately? How was Bob the Builder made?
Well, we would all get together. It was one of the things that Jackie really wanted to make sure happened, that we were all available at the same time. So they all had to check our availability, and thankfully we were all able to mostly get there for the records. And you would generally record about, I think it was a maximum of 4 at that point. We would do the most hilarious read-throughs. We would be given the free rein, which of course was quite dangerous because we were quite rude. And I mean, I think there is a tape out there, but it's we were allowed to just relax and just have fun with it. It wasn't that bad, but we had fun, and because of the fun that we had, we were able to just feel free to come out with all sorts of improv, lots of different sayings, and little ad libs and things, which kind of made the cut eventually. Probably a few catchphrases here and there stuck, but we just had the most amazing time because we knew each other so well. We could bounce off each other, and we felt relaxed to do so, and we were having fun. We were stepping into the characters completely, and we loved them. They were just fun characters, and it was a real treat to be able to have that kind of almost radio play like atmosphere when we were all recording together. So that's how it started, and it continued for quite a while like that. And I used to have. I suddenly discovered that sort of come 3:30, I would get the giggles, unfortunately. So Jackie was like, "Oh God, she's gone again. Just go. Let's have our tea break now while she gets herself together." I don't know why. I would get a bit hysterical about 3:30, 4 o'clock. Anyway, it didn't last too long, but that was a lot of fun. We'd still get the job done in the time. But then latterly, it became a bit more separate. Certainly when Jackie left, and we had a new producer, new director, and things were changing slightly, and it was moving along to a little bit more CGI work rather than the stop motion, which of course for me is my favourite. That I love that craft, and I love the way it looks, and so it all started to get a little bit strange, and we were recording separately. And it becomes a bit soulless and quite difficult to have that really nice, relaxed, organic feel. And sometimes you weren't quite sure whether, you were offering the voice or you were being told to lip sync, which which happened on occasion, which wasn't a problem, but it was just a different way of working. And so I preferred the original setup, and of course everything was moving into the idea of people recording separately anyway. At that point, which was absolutely fine, because we've done so much of a body of work. We could replicate that in our minds as we're going through the script. And of course, you've got wonderful director, Dirk Maggs, who was helping you to replicate that and bring it alive. So that was a very clever appointment, I think. But yeah, I do miss it, because there's so much a part of you, aren't they? And I've got my little Dizzy here, look. She's with me all the time. I think I've got a Wendy, I've got a Bob here. Oh, and my favourite, of course, Pilchard. My Pilchard there. Pilchard, actually, is a funny little story. Do you remember the Green Cross Code ad?
Oh, as in Charlie Says?
Yes.
Charlie
Says,
yes.
Exactly. Yeah, because they made a record of that, didn't they?
The
At some point. I based Pilchard on Charlie Says.
Ah.
But just part of your experience and what's in your head at the time. A lovely little character is Pilchard, and the way they animated Pilchard was just awesome. So yeah, that was that little story there.
Well, I'd like to ask you a little bit later as well about voicing characters who don't actually speak in words. But just on Bob the Builder, did you ever get to see any of the sort of stop motion work that people were doing in terms of how many people were making it and the work that went into it? Because they did produce an extraordinary amount, and when you consider how much they had to work on it,
yes,
must have been a huge operation.
It was a huge operation. It started with Hot Animation, and they were incredible. They were incredible artists and animators there who are still working today, obviously, and they've moved into a lot of things, and possibly Aardman as well, and their own projects and all of that sort of stuff. But the thing about them, though, is that it was very much evident to me that they were all part of a really good team, and they all worked really well together. And it's kind of family, really. You know, it does. I mean, to use that, it's true. Because you have to, because you got to know what this person's doing. And I don't know the full sort of spec of how you get from, who does what and, all of that. But everyone works together for one cause, which is to create these wonderful stories. And they often would work from our voices, which was incredible, because they're allowing you to act. They're allowing you to tell the story, and then they are developing it further by adding to what you have done. Sometimes it would be the other way around. But because we got that knowledge of each other, we kind of got that simpatico, you kind of work really well together either way. And so the machine was really quite slick. They knew what they were doing, but they also had a great ethos about it. I mean, it was the, reduce, reuse, recycle. Right from 2008 or something, I think it was, started then. That was very much instilled by Jackie and a lot of them. And yes, that aspect got bigger, and the fact that, Wendy was possibly wearing the trousers a bit was quite nice. And just that, I don't know, just a lovely atmosphere. That the work that went into it was incredible. And if you look at all of the stuff that Aardman do at the moment, and the lovely behind the scenes things that they're offering at the moment, you can just see a little snippet of the work that goes in. Animators, you see, are actors. They're actors too. That's what some people don't quite understand, is that they are actors. They have to be, because they have to know how someone might move if they've got a certain emotion about them. And they too are they study the physical aspects of the little nuances that people have, to get it right, because then we've got to know that that's real as the viewer. Oh, that resonates with me. I've seen people do that. It's quite quirky, that type of thing. So anyway, I think I'm banging on a bit, but
no worries. I mean, you mentioned Aardman there, and they're obviously absolute giants of animation, children's TV, but also film. When did you first start working with Aardman, and what was it you worked on?
Well, do you know, I can't actually remember brilliantly. I think it was 2007-ish. And I think they got me to come in and do a few, test bars and things. And then I think I went in and I just did a whole load of library, what's called library, which is, every single emotion under the sun, but with the specific bar. And strangely, that is required. It's not just one note, right? I can do that, right? It's thinking it. That's the whole point with the whole acting bit. It's about thinking it first and offering it up. And so that's how that started. And so I was Timmy's mum with the rollers, and I'm still her today. And so for quite some time, I didn't actually go and record much because they'd got masses of it, which was clever on their part. Not so great for me. But yeah, they've been amazing to me, Aardman, and included me in all sorts of different things and asked me in to help out on all sorts of stuff. One of the things that I did help out, which was a great little workshop, was they want a little bit like the animators would do. They got a whole bunch of actors in to sort of do the on the Shaun the Sheep movie, the bit where Shaun's the flock are singing to him, and so we did all of that, and we were sort of conducted by this fantastic composer. I can't remember how to pronounce his name. Esquire, I think. Oh, yes. I need to check that. But he's an incredible composer. And there he was, just going, right, now, so we're going to do this, we're going to try a bit of that, and we have a bit of improv, and we were all moving around. But it was a really lovely thing. It was a very tender thing. And they're very... all the details... This is the point. They just take every little detail and run with it, and they go. That is why it is so story rich and so believable, because all the little elements have been thought about and come together in this fantastic way. I think that's why they're so successful.
And have you seen anything of their early processes, how they go through the writing, how they go through the planning, and how they think through those little details? What have you seen that shows how much time and effort they put into things?
Well, I mean, all you've got to do is go on YouTube now or Google it, and you'll see specifically the Chicken Run, which I'm delighted to say I was in, the Chicken Run at Dawn of the Nugget. They go from first early sketches to ideas, and then they bounce these ideas off each other and work out what story it is that they are wanting to tell and how they're wanting to tell it. But it's so gag rich because they don't forget that the story is paramount and people want to engage, and the way to engage people is to make them laugh, is to have them alongside, is to not take themselves too seriously, is to all of those things, and not be run by a sort of machine that tells you, right, the demographic is this and the algorithm is that. No, none of that. It's real, proper acting from the animators and from the story, from the off. And so that's why it's such a privilege to work for them, because you just know that that's been taken care of. It's all good, and you're working with them. I mean, I did a whole load of scratch records for them here in this little booth for Dawn of the Nugget, and scratch, for people who don't know, is sort of, well, it's just reading, really. It's reading in, if you want to call it that. But with a bit of extra because I was sort of mimicking the characters, so Alison Steadman and Jane Horrocks and all of that, just to give them the rhythm that of the accent, because that's what it's about. It's the sort of the rhythm of the accent. Any accent is just it's a melody, isn't it? So it helps for them to sort of get a bit more of a guide of the possibility of where they might go with their acting choices. They've obviously got their acting choices as well, the animators. But it's just a nice little marriage of working that through with some of the actual characters. So, for instance, David Bradley, I was working with him in here. What joy he was. Oh, my goodness. And Bella Ramsey as well. What a talent. So natural and charming and just lovely. So, you know, and Sam, who's an incredible director, he knows what he wants, but he also knows and he trusts what you're going to perhaps offer up and is ready and open, willing to listen to some possible suggestions of, you know, something. And like, oh, I quite like that. What did you do there? Oh, okay, let's have a listen to that. Let's do that, you know. And so they listen. They're real true listeners. And but they've got that goal in mind. How they manage to do all of the storyboarding, the management, the whole thing of, you know, keeping the floor going and keeping all of the bits going, I just don't know how they do it. And I don't know how they did it because, as well, it was lockdown.
So a lot of the Dawn of the Nugget was actually made in lockdown, was it?
Yeah, absolutely staggering. And they just worked so hard, every single person. When you know you're dealing with something that's of quality, you give it your all, don't you? And I think that's what everyone does for Aardman. They just know it's a precious thing. It's a precious thing, this storytelling. You know, there was one time when I was questioning my validity as a person in terms of what it is I'm offering. You know, because I've got some very lucky to have some incredible friends, and you know, there's a teacher and a nurse and you know, people who are doing vital, important work. And there was one day, and I just went home and I cried because I just thought, what's the bloody point of me? What am I doing? What you know? Because also you're not working all the time. You're striving for the work and. You know, you feel a little bit crap that way anyway. But then somebody said to me, no, hang on a minute. What do those people do to relax? How do they actually forget the day? How can they move on? And, you know, if there aren't these moments of hilarity and storytelling and escapism and total immersion into these funny, quirky little thumb-printed thing, you know, so you know that people have made that effort thing. And I just went, oh yeah, okay, I'll take that. Yeah, all right then. I'm okay. Just keep going.
Well, I have to completely agree with that person. In lockdown, we watched a lot of things, not of Bob the Builder, but I've got about 5 years difference between my kids, and so sometimes it was really quite tricky to find things that they could both watch together. But Shaun the Sheep was always one of the things. We love the Shaun the Sheep movie, especially the moment where everyone sings together to soothe Timmy, and we'd listen to that as well. And again, that was another soundtrack to our lockdown. And so, yeah, those moments were really important to us. And everyone involved in those Aardman films should be just so proud of what they make, because they're amazing.
Oh, that's lovely. That's so nice to hear.
In fact, one thing we watched as a family this Christmas was the Shaun the Sheep Christmas special.
Yes, I recorded that here.
Oh, right. Fantastic.
Yes, I did all of Timmy's mum in this booth. Yeah.
And Timmy's mum's got quite a good role in that one as well. And
she does.
We really laughed, and it was just the perfect thing. It was about half an hour long, so it's don't have to put aside 2 hours for a full movie. It was just what we needed, and it was just a lovely moment on Christmas all to sit around and watch that. So I certainly agree with that person that those moments are absolutely amazing. And when you have a better moment together, you want to watch something good, something that someone's put that passion into, and it really shows with their stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, wholeheartedly.
Excellent. So, as I mentioned a little bit before, thinking about your Shaun the Sheep characters and also what you do on the Octonauts with the Vegemals, you do characters who don't speak in words but have to convey emotions, thoughts. How on earth do you go on about doing that?
You think it. You think it and you offer something up, given the coordinates of the specifics of the character that you're doing. So, for instance, I mean, with Octonauts, I was drafted in quite late. I had to do a voice match because I think the original person didn't want to do that anymore, just wanted to concentrate on writing. But I auditioned for that. I had the audition come in here, and I was able to work to picture here, and tried to sync up my voice to sound, which was quite tricky because they're very diverse. I mean, you've got Gruber, who is really low down, and then you've got Tomino, who's absolutely up there, and then you've got Tunip, who is Octonauts to the HQ. So these very specific characters, and Coddish is a bit sort of hillbilly type, and Barrett, and crazy kind of funny little noises. So because I have experimented, as you can tell, with my voice and finding different tones and resonances within whatever's going on in there, it helped. So I was able to voice match, but then you have to understand how to, as you say, portray an emotion or get that across, and how does that not sound the same as when you did it before, when you were thinking that. Sometimes it comes out the same, sometimes it doesn't, but generally if you've got the right intention and you're giving the right intention and thought to what the character wants and where it's going, and it just has to have the right energy, and generally it's generally it comes out. I mean, I don't know, it's not an exact science, is it? it just hopefully hits the moment in the right way.
Would you get a script telling you what the creature is intending to say, and then you have to just vocalize that, or does it just say sort of meow, 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 and you have to sort of infer what they're trying to say?
No. I mean, you get told that you're given the script, so you know the story, you know how the characters are interacting with all of the different other characters, and what it is that the story is trying to say, and the relationship and the sort of characteristics of each character. So you've got all of that going on, and then you're placing that within the scene, and that's why the wonderful Dave Peacock is there to help you, to steer you through to something. And if it's not quite sounding right because it's not quite coming out out of the mouth as I'm thinking it, he then directs you to swerve you in a different way or that way, and then they get exactly what they want. So it's definitely a sort of ballet between the two of you, really.
And obviously the Vegemals, you were matching something that had been done before, but how does it tend to happen when you have a new character that you need to work out a voice for? Do you see pictures and try and work it round by then? Does the director explain to you what they're after and then you sort of try some things? How does it normally work?
So, for instance, in Octonauts, there would be various different other characters in there. And the detail in the scripts were absolutely phenomenal. You would get, if it was an eagle or any kind of other character, a sort of a monarch butterfly or a thing, you would get all the detail. And, some people might say, oh, I won't bother reading that, I'll just do that. You never know what you're absorbing is thunk and thrown forward. So that's why it's so important to read everything that you're given, if you're lucky enough to be given a script and lucky enough to be given visuals. And for me, that really helps. Visuals really help me. Specifically, if you've got a face that's got a quirky little mouth, or any kind of detail, grab that and roll with that, and it really, really helps. It's almost like, if you can imagine a sound coming out of that shape face. Does it work? Is it true? So yeah, all of those things, they give you an awful lot, and it's fantastic that way. But also, I was coming to it a bit later, so they'd already been doing these series and episodes, so they were able to inform me, oh right, this is where this sort of happens, and the Vegemals all come in at a certain time, and they're all getting busy, and they've got this little song, so you've got to learn the little song, so and then you do each character individually, singing a specific song, if they're just digging or doing whatever, or shaking a tree. So yeah, it's yet again, you're just thinking, well, oh my God, what, all that work just for yeah, and that's why it works. Because they take every attention to detail seriously. So any of the other characters that are offered, sometimes they'll say, well, actually, we were thinking of an accent, maybe a little bit this or a little bit that. What were you thinking? Or try that, try this. Oh yeah, that sits nicely. Yes, that's a bison. Yes, that's a tortoise. What a joy! What a joy and a privilege to do that work and offer up something that hopefully works for the story. Yeah,
I think Octonauts, a bit like Bob the Builder, has always been one that my kids have watched, and I've always picked up from the voices that everyone seems to be having a good time.
Yeah.
Did you ever get?
They got important work, they've got important work to do. They're saving the world, really.
Oh, yes, but did you ever get a chance to be with the rest of the voices when you're recording and do it all together, and what were those sessions like?
Magic. Again, it's just wonderful to work with people and around people, and the energy that's there, it's just electric. And you've got such talent that you're working with. Oh my God. And some I'd worked with before and others not, and new people, and wow. Just so exciting to hear all these different things, and actually it was could have been an intimidating, because in effect I'm a bit of a blow-in, coming in late to the party, and having to do those 5 in front of a whole room of people, but just I just got on with it, and they were very nice to me, and I just was part of the family right from the off. It was just really lovely. Yeah, because basically it's not about us. It's about serving the story. So that's actually rather freeing, because you get over the nerves because you've got a job to do.
And you mentioned Dave Peacock as the director of that, and you mentioned the other directors you've worked on other jobs as well. What kind of role do they take, and how do they shape how you work and how it all comes out at the end of the day?
Well, honestly, a good director, they just work great with actors. They understand actors. They know perhaps how to ask for something that's slightly different to the thing that they've just offered. And not in a way that is a line reading, because that's a big mistake and it's annoying, because it takes away your own spark if you're having to just do a line read from someone. So that's why I think perhaps lesser experienced directors might possibly go there, because it's a shorthand version of, no, we really want this rhythm to be da 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 da. Oh my God, right, so that's set in stone. So you want this da 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 da. Yeah, but could you have a bit more emphasis on the da da instead of the and then you've forgotten that you're telling a story. So so great directors just allow you to do your job as an actor, and they just tweak it. They've already cast you. They already know you can do what you've been asked to do. So they just mould you and shape you and guide you into the effect that they're after in any given scene, really. And it's really funny when you've read it wrong, it doesn't sound right to you, it doesn't feel right, and you just go again, and they went, yeah, glad you did that, because I was going to say, could you do it again? Less crap. But yeah, it's a great experience working with a really good director. It's just a lot of fun.
What have some of your highlights been of your career? Teams you work with, characters you've created. What are your sort of highlights that you like to look back on?
I'd have to look at my CV because I can't remember. My memory is so bad. However, major highlights. Well, the most recent, of course, is Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget, being part of that. Absolutely incredible. Bob, recording at Abbey Road. Working with incredible people. Certainly on Bob, there was a whole stream of people who came through. And, of course, I didn't take any photos because it wasn't really the done thing then. But Elton John sitting next to me going, is it all right, Kate? Do you think I've done that okay? And I'm like, you're asking, yeah, Elton, you're fine, love. All right. Just carry on being you. I would say, though, when I was working for Disney Plus, and I was a bush baby in a wonderful anthology called Kazazimoto. And that again, no script, just noises. And I studied the bush baby and how it sounded, and also a fish eagle I was asked to do as well. So that was really interesting to listen to that and try and replicate that. And my God, that was quite difficult, quite screechy, as you can imagine. That was an incredible highlight for me. And to go and see it screened at BAFTA, because I've just become a member, which is incredibly nice. And to just go there and watch that there, knowing that was me, and I did that. It's such a beautiful episode. Ngendo Muki is her name, is the director, and she was absolutely fantastic. She was just so empathetic. I mean, honestly, you could just feel the vibes from her. And I recorded that at Soho Square Studios. And you could tell it meant a great deal to her. It was an important story, and I was very privileged to be that in that. I hope they do something with it. I don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But that was a huge highlight for me. So yes, I've done a lot of really exciting things. Yeah, that's there are many amazing things I'm very proud of. I just keep looking forward. I want to just keep doing more. I want to offer more. But I also am really quite intrigued, because when somebody said to me, "Oh, could you go and how about teaching at specifically Birmingham Conservatoire?" I was asked to do that. I went, "What, me? What are you talking about? I can't, tell people how to do it, or, who am I to say?" And people was just saying, "For goodness sake, Kate, you've done like nearly 20 years now." That was so about 10 years ago. Surely you've got something to. So when you really think about it, and you think about how you got to where you are, you don't really remember how or what. You're not clunking it in your brain and going, "Oh yes, I know how to do this because I do that." No. So I really tried to hone in on how it is that I do what I do. And as I said, I think it comes from a physical place. It's a very visceral thing for me. It's completely different to lots of different people, and they've all got different ways of getting into it.
Well, it's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to people like yourself is because children's TV is fun. It's bright colours. It's wacky voices, but also the people behind it have thought about it, really put in the time and effort. So for me, it's an amazing mix of seriousness and silliness, and but just all built around people caring about what they're making.
When things are commissioned, and and they win something, and they generally it's well thought through, because they've got a directive. They want to know what we're needing to teach a little bit more of in this world, and these wonderful stories are helping us to do that. It's to educate, to lead out, to inspire, and to let people know that they're not on their own, that that their struggles and their human story is replicated everywhere, in the way that they can empathise with characters and empathise with each other, so understand each other a bit more and feel empowered as well. That they're not on their own, and it's very important. And some, programs are cleverly commissioned, and you're going, yep, that was a good one. I'm really glad they made that. Haven't they made it beautifully? There are incredible people behind the scenes with children's television, and it's an absolute privilege to be anywhere near it, to be honest.
Well, fantastic. I think on that note, I'd just like to say just a big thank you, and thank you for talking to me. It's been really great, Kate. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and reaffirming for me, how exciting and what a wonderful job I do. So I'm very excited to carry that on, and we never know what's next, do we? What's round the corner?
No.
Very exciting. But it's great to meet you, and thank you very much for your interest as well.
No worries. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All the best.
Thanks to the amazing Kate Harbour for chatting to me. Please like and subscribe to this podcast if you enjoyed it. Follow us on Twitter. Until next time, goodbye.